Tea break time again, folks. Time for our tea break chat. My mug's got Coronation Street on. Lovely Coronation. I haven't missed, it's a guilty secret of mine, but I haven't missed Coronation Street, an episode since September 1980. I'm addicted. It's sort of just my candy floss TV, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Well, it's tea break time. I've got Alice McCulloch and I've got Tony Stein joining me. What are your mugs like?
Afternoon. Very colourful. Very
colourful. And what? Oh, hang on. What did that say? May contain gin.
Can you read mine?
May contain gin. Very good. Now,
getting through it.
It's our last sort of few days of lockdown, and the two people I've talking to today all have a specific type of work that they do. They care for vulnerable people. Alice for nursery school children, and Tony for elderly people, because Tony runs a chain of care homes around the country, and Alice runs Rosedene nursery schools around the northeast of England. Let's start with you first, Alice. Nursery schools were absolutely fundamentally important to keeping the NHS running. What did you do in lockdown 1?
So for us at Rosedene, it was definitely the biggest test, and we had to put our families first. And right from the start at lockdown, we were speaking to our families, and we actually have hundreds of key worker families, and many of our nurseries were located next to hospitals. So what we did was we actually transformed the model and the services that we operate as nursery care providers to setting up 24-hour childcare hubs 7 days a week. So we were looking after children on the weekends and overnight, and it's something completely different for us. But we just wanted to ensure that we could do everything that we could throughout the pandemic, and a priority was about trying to establish normality throughout all of the chaos for the families and for the children.
Now, many nursery schools closed during this period, didn't they? But if you weren't open, then there would have been many essential workers in the NHS hubs, because you, as you say, were attached to hospitals that wouldn't have had childcare. But fewer children, more hours. And you managed to get through it?
Yes, we did. We did see periods where we had less than 10% of our usual occupancy. So it was a real challenge, but we were supported by the furlough scheme, which we were able to use. And now, at Rosedene, we are, almost back to where we were previously. The rest of the sector, there's still, a huge lag behind. We're going to hope that will catch up. But I think that the impact we've seen, nurseries closed throughout lockdown, and some of those nurseries haven't reopened again today.
You had Rishi Sunak visit one of your nurseries a few weeks ago. I'll flash a photo up now. Now, what did you say to Rishi Sunak when he came to see you?
So Rishi, we wrote to Rishi first, and we provided some proposals for how we would reopen the country and how the earlier sector would play part of that role. And it was about sharing our operating procedures. And Rishi had a tour of our Rosedene nursery in Northallerton. And, we're really grateful for his support and the motivation that he brought all of our team.
So we're coming to the end of lockdown 2. Was lockdown 2 for you the same experience as lockdown 1?
That parents are much more confident, and we're seeing a lot more parents coming back. But I think that the first lockdown was a lot quieter. We're fully opened with all of our nurseries now, and we're going to continue that over the next few months.
Excellent. Tony, let's bring you in. You run a chain of nursing homes. They're all around the country. They're in Scotland and Wales as well as in England. Let's talk about the position as it is now, though, rather than all going back through the first lockdown. Because now, I suppose it's residents' relatives who are putting pressure on, who want to go and see their relatives in your homes. How are you dealing with that?
It's quite a challenge, to be perfectly honest with you, Graham. We recognise, I think, as carers, the value of visits for people in our homes, and yet we always have to be aware that we're dealing with perhaps the most vulnerable group of people, and the risks of people coming in and out of the services is huge. I mean, And the problem is that relatives have got different views. Some relatives say, well, this might be my mum's, last 6 months or 12 months. And, I want to see her and she wants to see me and she doesn't care if she catches it. But we have to think about the other 59 people that live with mum. So, we have to take decisions which some find less acceptable than others. In all honesty, actually, quite a lot of the elderly residents that we have got that lovely attitude, that old-fashioned stoicism, which is, well, if that's what we have to do, we just have to get on with it, and they're quite happy. It's the relatives that are actually more challenging than the residents often.
It's understandable, but you've got these rapid flow tests or lateral flow tests, I don't know which it is, which produce a result within 30 minutes. I suppose there's a logistical issue if you had everyone want to visit their relatives in administering the test, then facilitating the visit.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think people have seen this in the press. That's, we're going to have a 30-minute test and that will allow people to visit in the care homes. Clearly, if you've got a 60-bed care home, and we're talking about 2 visits a week, which I think was publicised, that's 120 visits a week we've got to try and fit in, which we've got to manage. People, when they come, are going to be assumed to maybe have COVID, so we're going to have to keep them separate from each other as well as the residents and the staff. So there's a segregation issue. They're going to be waiting around for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour before they get the test result. That's assuming that the test result gives us a reading one way or the other at that point. If we find out somebody's actually a positive COVID case, then we have to clean down the area that we've kept them in, ready for the next people to come in. So there's some serious logistical challenges behind this for care home operators. And they're running a test scheme with 20 homes at the moment around the country. And we'll see what that brings and what the challenges are and how they overcome them. Because actually, I think this is quite more difficult than people assume. And I think there's an article in the press again today about residents being allowed to visit their relatives at home and then come back to the care home. Again, that's a massive risk if you think about it, because we've got no idea who they're mixing with and how they're mixing when they go out of the care home. When they come back, if we have to isolate them all again for another 2 weeks, that's quite a logistical challenge.
Alice talked about staff issues as well. I mean, the staff issues on that is bad enough, but what about staff issues if staff are testing positive or having to self-isolate because of apps and things like that? Have you had that? And Alice, have you had that with the self-isolating?
Yes, that's definitely what I was implying before in terms of staffing. And, if we continue to use bubbles, so that means that children and staff are allocated an age group and they cannot mix with any other children or staff members. So in the event that a member of staff may test positive, it would be an isolated group that would have to go home for 2 weeks. So yeah, we've definitely seen an increase in that, but we have to just do what we can to try and minimise the risk.
Okay, last word to Tony on that one.
Yeah, no, we're like everybody else. We've got issues, but I think in fairness, we're not seeing as many people having to isolate as we did the first time around. So, there's a bit of a balance. We're getting more testing, but actually we're seeing a few asymptomatic people being caught in the testing, but actually it's not as bad as we'd feared originally.
Well, look, it was great talking to you on this Tea Break chat. Tea Break is up. By the way, I've worn a tie for this, not because I think you're both brilliant, but actually I was having a meeting before I had this Tea Break chat. But it's nice to be a bit formal, get ready for when the lockdown ends.
It's nice to be looking so smart, Graham, as well. Can I just say to Alice, can I just say, I think what you did about putting in 24/7 care to help the key workers was absolutely brilliant. Really amazing. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you again for another Tea Break chat soon.